Hi, my name is Jessie Ashdown, and what I'm going to be presenting today is human-computer interaction and social science. So for this, what I wanted to pick is something that most of us are probably going to deal with, perhaps daily even in the field, or in the field of human-computer interaction, and that is of group work and collaboration. And this is one aspect of social science that has been researched and is really important because most of us are going to deal with it in working in this field. And it's really a necessity because with applications, websites, things like that being as enormous as they are, it's a necessity that there be interaction and collaboration and group work between people in many different areas of HCI. For example, designers, visual designers, researchers, developers, product managers, all these people need to come together and collaborate on a particular application, website, any of those kinds of things. So what I wanted to do today is just look at one particular aspect of group work, and that is collaborative brainstorming. And that is when, people are going to meet together and brainstorm ideas or thoughts, anything together as a group. So really brainstorming is needed on most, if and all teams do it. But the issue with this is that there are problems with brainstorming in a group. And there is actually some research done by John Carroll that has shown that there is actually a productivity loss when brainstorming is done in a large group. And this seems sort of odd. You would think that the productivity would increase in larger groups, but in fact, it's actually diminished somewhat. And I will go into some of those reasons. And it's true that good creative ideas can be produced in groups. Certainly there is an increase in creativity, things like that. But often the production of ideas is often less than the sum of what the collective of the individuals themselves would have come up on their own. And Carroll points out three different reasons that this tends to happen. The first is social pressure. The second is social loafing, and the third is production blocking. And we'll go through each one more in depth. So the first one is social pressure. So this is a person being worried that they're being judged or evaluated on the different ideas that they are presenting in a group. And when people are worried about how they're going to be evaluated, if someone is going to be judging their ideas, they tend to share less and they tend to hold back. They also tend to agree more often than they would if there was no risk of them being evaluated or judged in that situation. So certainly this can diminish the amount of ideas that are thrown out in a brainstorming session, as well as sort of a false sense of agreement for lack of people wanting to sort of put themselves out there and say, oh, I don't agree with that idea. The second thing that Carroll points to is social loafing. So this is when people are in a group and they tend to work less because of the group atmosphere. This is especially if the group is large. And this is the perception that ideas may not be heard, they may not be considered, and so thus people tend to sit back and maybe share less than they would if either the group were very small or if they were just producing ideas and content on their own. The last thing that we'll look at is production blocking, and this honestly is the most important and really is the primary cause of decreased productivity in groups. And this is when in a group, there often tends to be 1, 2, maybe 3 people who do much or most of the talking, and this can block or inhibit others from talking and contributing. This can also slow or halt the flow of thoughts that a single individual may have as they are listening and interacting with the group. It's very difficult to multitask and listen and take in what someone else is saying, but at the same time be producing ideas of your own. So certainly this decreases the amount of ideas that maybe those people that are less active in the conversation are producing and thus, aren't able to share anything. So certainly this can also result in the chance of those people just not getting the opportunity to speak if there are several individuals that are sort of taking over the entire group collaboration, if you will. So all this sounds very dismal, but it's not. There are certainly things that can be done to help mitigate these things. And there's research by Deal and Strobe that posits, really focusing on production blocking as being of the greatest concern, and maybe some ideas on how to deal with that. So things that they have come out and researched are having individuals create and develop ideas separately on their own. So this really gets at the importance of the ability of people to come up with ideas without any sort of limitations, without being blocked in their thoughts or even in their verbalization of things by other people. Also, when a specific amount of time is given to people individually to come up with ideas, they tend to produce many very quickly, sort of under that time pressure. So again, this doesn't have to be a long process of having people come up with ideas individually, but it helps the process flow much more fluidly for an individual, and then those ideas can come together at the group. They also pointed out in this research that when the task is very specific of the group, that productivity is increased. For example, having the group come together to evaluate the ideas that individuals had come up on their own tends to be much more productive than just the creation of ideas, period, that may have a less focus to the task. So certainly having a more defined task really enables groups working collaboratively to streamline what it is that they're working on, and to have a clear focus to that session to be able to get more produced. So really, we have only looked at a tiny aspect of group work, and that's just collaborative brainstorming. But really, group work is so extensive, it's used so much that the research that has been done here and the ideas that I've pointed out really have broader implications. So the challenges that are faced in brainstorming, for example, are the same challenges that can be faced in any kind of group work. So the same ideas of social pressure, the social loafing, as well as the production blocking, those can be experienced in any kind of group setting. So the implications for this are, having other forms of collaboration, not just let's all get in a room and quote unquote talk about it. But as the research study suggested, having a certain portion of it that's done individually, and then certainly when you come together in that group, having a very specified set task for that group for that given amount of time to be able to accomplish. And this helps increase the productivity and focus the session to get more accomplished in that time. So certainly, given that this field is going to continue to be collaborative going forward, these are certainly some ways that can be assisted and productivity can be increased. So that is what I have today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you again. Take care.